Hi friends, so today we are going to take up the questions which has been given in the NTA. You know NTA, it is National Testing Agency. So under the program Abhyas, in the app they have uploaded few model questions which are very important for understanding what type of question can be expected in JEE Mains. So this was test number 1 and I have started from question number 1 which appeared in that test paper. So the first question you can see it is from interference. The question is, in YDSC, how many maxima can be obtained on a screen including central maxima if D is equal to 5 lambda by 2, where lambda is the wavelength of light. So in order to solve this question, first what we do is we try to draw a setup. This YDSC setup. So you can see this is the slit S1, S2, this is the screen, and this is any point P. You can see this distance is capital D, this distance will be small d, the distance between the two slits, and here you are getting central maxima. What is the path difference? So this value becomes the path difference between the two rays of light. So we can say that if this angle is theta, then this angle will also be theta. So now if you see this triangle here, what is the value of del x? It will be d sine theta. So we can write del x, the path difference, as d sine theta. And for formation of maxima, this path difference must be integral multiple of wavelength of light. So we can write d sine theta must be equal to n lambda. Correct? Now you know that sine theta here we can write it as n lambda by d. And what is the bounded value of sine theta? It is -1 less than equal to sine theta less than equal to 1. So that means this value, we can say it is confined between these two range, because sine theta maximum possible value is 1 and minimum is -1. So now if you try to solve it, what is d value? It is given as 5 lambda by 2. So we write it -1 less than equal to n lambda by d is 5 lambda by 2. So 5 lambda will come here, 2 will go in the numerator, less than equal to 1. So lambda and lambda will get cancelled. So now what you are getting here? It is n by 2.5. So we can rewrite this expression as, suppose if I write it here, this part, so it will be -1 less than equal to n by 2.5 less than equal to 1. So now we can write this as -2.5 less than equal to n less than, and this is less than equal to 2.5. So what are the possible values of n? So it will be -2, -1, 0, 1 and 2. So total how many values you are getting here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it means how many maxima we are obtaining on the screen including central maxima. Central maxima will correspond to n is equal to 0. So the total number of maxima which we are getting is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the answer for this question will be 5. Let us see the second question in that part. A magnet makes 40 oscillations per minute at a place having magnetic field of induction 0.1 into 10 to the power of minus 5 Tesla. It takes 2.5 seconds to complete one vibration. Find the value of Earth's horizontal field at that place. So how should we solve this problem? Now, in order to solve this problem, we have to understand one thing, and that is how is time period dependent on the external magnetic field and why the magnet is going to oscillate. So what happens, you have already studied that torque is equal to m cross b, where m is the magnetic moment and b is the magnetic field. So this torque is going to act as the restoring torque. So this we can write it as I, moment of inertia, d squared theta by dt squared, and this will be equal to minus mv. We'll get sine theta for a small angle that can be approximated as theta. See, I am starting from the basic, how we get the final expression. So id squared theta by dt squared is minus mv theta. So what is d squared theta by dt squared then? This can be written as minus mv by I into theta. And what is d squared theta by dt squared? We can write it as minus omega squared theta minus mv by I into theta. Theta and theta will get cancelled, minus and minus will get cancelled. So you will get omega is equal to root of mv by I. I is the moment of inertia. So what is time period then? It is 2 pi by omega. So we can write it as 2 pi root of I by mv. So now, what is time period in the first case? It is making 40 oscillation in 60 seconds. So time taken for one oscillation is your time period. So it will be 60 by 40. And let us say the time period in the second case, it is already given in the question, which is 2.5 seconds. So we can write T2 as equal to 2 pi root of I by m into B2, and T1 as 2 pi root of I by m into B1, because here B2 and B1 they are only changing, rest all the other quantities they are same. So now if we divide T1 by T2, then what do we get? We get root of I by mb1 into, because 2 pi and 2 pi will get cancelled, mb2 by I. I will get cancelled, m and m will get cancelled. So you get root of b2 by b1. And what is T1 here? Can we find it out? So T1 will be equal to 60 by 40, 3 by 2, which is 1.5 seconds. So 1.5 by 2.5. So here we can write 1.5 by 2.5, and this is equal to root of b2 by b1. So it is 3 by 5. 3 by 5 is 0.6. Take a square on both the sides. So when you take a square on both the sides, you can write b2 by b1 as equal to 0.6 square, which is 0.36. Now what is b1? 0.1 into 10 to the power of minus 5. So we can write b2 as equal to b1 into 0.36. So 0.36 will get multiplied with this. So what will you get? 0.36 into, this is 10 to the power of minus 6. So we can write 0.36 into 10 to the power of minus 6 Tesla. And this will be their final answer. That is what they are asking us to find. Find the value of Earth's horizontal field at that place. So now you can see the type of questions which we are witnessing in this test, most of them are direct formula based questions, and similar model of questions you have already done it multiple number of times. So I don't find any reason why you should not be able to do it in the actual mains exam. Now for Hindi medium students, I'll explain this question again. तो बच्चों इस क्वेश्चन में ये दे रखा है कि आपके पास एक, let's see this third question from the same test paper. Half life of a radioactive substance is 3.20 hour. What is the time taken for 75% of substance to be used? So now they have given half life in the question and they are asking you if 75% of substance has decayed means it has been used, so how much time has been taken for that process to take place. So let us say if initial number of radioactive nuclei was N0, then after half life, what is the time, what is the number of radioactive nuclei left? N0 by 2. So what is decay or used? 50%. Now further, from N0 by 2 in another half life, T half of this will decay, N0 by 2. So what will be left? N0 by 4. So now in this case, decay or used will become 25% of original number. So that means the total decay has reached 75%. So in the second step, this percentage which I am writing, this is of original number, that is N0. So both these numbers correspond to percentage of original number. So no need to get confused there. So that is what they have asked us. So what should we do? Half life has been given 3.2. So we write in the first case how much time will be utilized, 3.2 hours. In the second case also 3.2 hours. So what is the total time taken? It will be T half plus T half. And we can write it as 3.2 plus 3.2, which will be 6.40. So the total time taken for 75% of substance to decay or to be used is 6.4 hours. If they would have asked us for 87.5%, suppose if they would have asked us for 87.5%, then what would you have done? Again from N0 by 4 to N0 by 8. Means decay used in this step would have become 12.5% of the original. So total would have been 87.5%. So the total time taken in that case would have been T half plus T half plus T half. So 3.2 3 times. So that is how you solve such kind of problems. And you can see it is a very basic questions from radioactivity. So if you have done textbook questions in NCERT and few basic level of assignment, it is very easy to solve this problem. Okay, so now let's see this fourth question, which is from thermodynamics based on indicator diagram. You know that PV diagram is called as indicator diagram. So three different processes are given and they have asked us to select which graph is correct graph corresponding to those processes. So AB is an isothermal process, BC is isochoric and AC is adiabatic. Which of the graph is correct? So now first we'll talk about, let us say if we take BC. BC is isochoric. What do you mean by isochoric? Where volume is constant. Volume is constant. This is the meaning of isochoric. So now see in which of these four graphs volume is constant, in A and D. C and D volume is not constant, it is changing. So that means C and D are not the correct options. Now let us move on to A and B. What is the curve of isothermal process? Is it a straight line? No. So you know that for isothermal process the equation is PV is equal to constant And for adiabatic process, the equation is PV to the power of gamma is constant. Correct? So here P is, you can see it is inversely proportional to volume. So if P is inversely proportional to volume, the graph will be hyperbolic. So that means this option is also not correct. They have given a AB as a straight line. So the correct option here is B. There is one more reason why B is correct. We can say that slope of adiabatic curve is gamma times the slope of isothermal curve. When you will find dP by dV in both these cases, so you will get dP by dV for adiabatic curve is gamma times of dP by dV for isothermal curve. So that means adiabatic curve is more steeper as compared to isothermal curve in expansion. So what we are seeing, we can write slope of adiabatic curve, adia is gamma times the slope of isothermal curve. So that means adiabatic curve must be more steeper. So which is more steeper here? Obviously this AC. So that means this is representing adiabatic process, this is representing your isothermal process, and this is representing your isochoric process. So again you can see this was basic information kind of. If you are just aware of what is isothermal process, what is isochoric process, and what is adiabatic process, it would have been very easy for you to choose the correct option. So there is no rocket science here. No need to use those cumbersome formulas of thermodynamics to calculate anything. Simple knowledge of process and what happens in that process will help. Okay, so let's see this problem. This was asked from simple harmonic motion. A particle executes SHM and it is located at x is equal to A, B and C at time t0, 2t0 and 3t0 respectively. Find the frequency of the oscillation. So how do we solve this? So let us say the particle is oscillating and this is x is equal to 0. So there are different positions, x is equal to A, x is equal to B and x is equal to C. And the particle is at these positions at time t0, 2t0 and 3t0. And let us say at t is equal to 0, I am assuming that the particle is at its mean position. This is mean position. So whenever the particle starts moving from mean position, I can take the equation of simple harmonic motion of the particle as A sin omega t. Because initial phase difference will be 0. So now if I put x is equal to A, what is capital A here? It is amplitude. So sine of omega t0. B can be written as A sine of omega 2t0. What about C? We can write it as A sine omega of 3t0. So once we know all these values, after that what we need to do? A is there, C is there, and we have to talk about B. And here if you will see the argument of sine functions, at one place we are having omega t0, another place 2 omega t0, and then you are having 3 omega t0. So how to relate all this algebraically? So let us try to do that. Let us say we add A and C. So what will be A plus C? A is common, and then you are having sine of omega t plus sine of omega, or we can write it as 3 omega t0. So this is of the form sine C plus sine D. So what is the expansion of that? 2 sine C plus D by 2. So C plus D by 2 will be 3 plus 1, 4 by 2. So 2 omega t0 cos C minus D by 2. So C minus D minus 2 omega t0 by 2. So it will be minus omega t naught. So it will become cos of omega t naught, because cos of minus theta is cos of theta. So you can see here now we are having 2a sine of 2 omega t naught into cos of omega t naught. Now you see the equation for b. B is equal to a sine 2 omega t naught. So instead of this expression here, a sine 2 omega t naught, we can write b. Correct? So now your equation becomes a plus c is equal to 2b cos of omega t naught. So what is this function? A plus c by 2b, and that will be equal to cos of omega t naught. So what is omega t naught then? It will be equal to cos inverse of a plus c by 2b. So what is omega naught? Omega, it will be 1 by t naught cos inverse of a plus c by 2b. So we can write omega as equal to, I will be writing on this side. So we get our omega as equal to 1 by t naught cos inverse of a plus c by 2b. This will be the angular frequency, and we can check with the options what they have asked, and then we can tick it. So you can see this question again, it was very simple direct formula based questions. You have to substitute it, and maybe little difficulty would have been in eliminating or solving this trigonometric function, dealing with this trigonometric function here. But if you know what is sin c plus sin d and how to relate it with b, then you would have been able to solve this question. Now let's see this problem. The shortest wavelength of bracket series of a hydrogen-like atom, atomic number Z, is the same as the shortest wavelength of Balmer series of hydrogen atom. So now first thing we have to understand here is what is shortest wavelength. When we will have shortest wavelength. So generally the confusion can come here. Now you see energy is Sc by lambda, so that means energy is inversely proportional to wavelength. So if you want shortest wavelength, means you want energy to be maximum. The energy difference should be maximum. So that means one of the levels must be infinity. Now you see here we are taking hydrogen atom and then we are talking about the Balmer series. So if you don't remember, I'll just recapitulate it for you. There are different orbits. Let us say this is the nucleus. These are the different orbits. So if transition is happening in the ground state, this is your ground state, this is nucleus, then what will you get? Lyman. If it is happening in, this is n is equal to 1, n is equal to 2, then you will get Balmer. Similarly, n is equal to 3, you will get Paschen. N is equal to 4, you will get bracket, and then you will get T5. So that is how the spectral series is oriented. What is the formula? The formula is 1 by lambda is equal to RH into Z square. This is Rydberg's formula. 1 by N1 square minus 1 by N2 square. So first talk about hydrogen atom and Balmer series. Balmer series means N is equal to 2, and we are talking about the shortest wavelength, maximum energy, so the other value of N must be infinity. So we can write, let us say the corresponding is lambda, the wavelength, Rydberg constant, hydrogen atom, so it will be 1 by N is 2, so 4 minus 1 by infinity. So this term will become 0, and what we get is 1 by lambda is equal to RH by 4. 1 by lambda is equal to RH by 4. Now let us talk about the first part, the shortest wavelength. Again, shortest wavelength of bracket series. Bracket means n is equal to 4. And other one will be, n will be infinity, n2 will become infinity. So let us say the shortest wavelength here, we assume it to be lambda dash. So again, using Rydberg's formula, what can we write? 1 by lambda dash is equal to RH Z square, because it is hydrogen like atom. 1 by n is equal to 4, so 16 minus 1 by infinity. So this term will become 0. And now you are having RH by 4 as 1 by lambda. So can we substitute it here and get the value of Z? And it is given in the question that this wavelength and the second wavelength is same. So lambda dash is equal to lambda. So we can equate both of them. So when you equate, I'll just erase this part. When you equate it, you will get RH by 4 as equal to RH into Z square by 16. So RH and RH will get cancelled. 4 4s are. So Z square is equal to 4. So what is Z? Z is equal to 2. So the answer for this question is 2. Again, you can see this is very basic question which has been asked from you from modern physics. Let's see this question. It's based on heat conduction. So there is a partition wall. It has two layers of different materials A and B in contact with each other. They have same thickness, but the thermal conductivity of layer A is twice that of B. In a steady state, the temperature difference across layer B is 50 K. Find the corresponding difference across layer A. So let us first draw it. Let us say this is layer A, and then you are having layer B. Both are having the same thickness, but conductivity of layer A is twice that of B. So for B, if the conductivity is K, then for layer A, what is the conductivity? It will be 2K. Thickness is given as same. So this is T, then this is also T. The most important thing in this problem is that they have mentioned that the system is in a steady state. So in a steady state, what happens? The rate of heat flow is constant. So that means del Q by del T, it will be constant, whatever be the layer that you take. So here the temperature difference across layer B is given as 50 K. So here this is given as 50 K, the temperature difference. So let us say this temperature is some theta AB, this is theta B, and this is theta A. So it is given theta AB minus theta B is equal to 50 Kelvin. So what is the rate of heat transfer across both the layers? It is constant, it will be same. So across layer A, this should be equal to del Q by del T across the layer B. And what is the value of del Q by del T? It is thermal conductivity. So we write 2K into area of cross section. Let us say the area of cross section is A for both of them. So 2K into A. What is temperature difference? Theta A minus theta AB. For A we can write theta A minus theta AB. This is something which we need to find out, divided by the thickness T, and this should be equal to K into A into theta AB minus theta B. How much is that? 50. So I am directly writing here 50 divided by T. So now you can see it here, T gets cancelled, K gets cancelled, and what do I get? Theta A minus theta AB as 50 by 2, which is 25. So I get my final expression as theta A minus theta AB, which they have asked us in the question. What is this? This is the temperature difference across A, and this comes as 50 by 2, which is 25 K. This is 25 K. So this is the answer for this question. So here also, if you see, if you remember the basic formula, which is del Q by del T is equal to K del theta by del L for conduction of heat, then this question you can easily solve it in the exam. And second important point, that in steady state or at steady state, the rate of heat flow will remain constant. Let's see this question, question number 8. Now if you see this question, you will realize that there are a lot of unnecessary things which we just keep on practicing throughout the year, and the level of the question that is being asked from a given topic, it can actually be solved just based, even if you have solved a few of the conceptual questions in that chapter. So let us see this question, and after solving this question you will realize that we should actually not feel scared about the mains examination. These questions from NTA, it shows that what is the type of question bank they are keeping and what is the type of questions we can expect in the exam. And you can see that it's not a very difficult task, it's not a Herculean task to get good percentile in mains exam. If you have done your work little sincerely, if you have been little sincere in your class, it's very easy to get good percentile in JEE mains exam. So let us see this problem. A particle is released from a height s. At certain height, its kinetic energy is 3 times its potential energy. The height and speed of the particle at that instant are respective. So now you are releasing, let us say this is the ground. You are releasing a particle from height s. So when you are releasing it, what is its initial velocity? 0, and it is falling under acceleration due to gravity. So it has been said in the question that at certain height its kinetic energy is 3 times its potential energy. So let us say we talk about this. This is the point, and let us say this height is h above the ground. So what is this distance? This will become s minus h, this distance. And at this height, its kinetic energy is 3 times its potential energy. So what will be the potential energy? This we consider as the position of 0 potential energy. Then here the potential energy will become mgh, if m is the mass, correct? And what will be the kinetic energy here? Let us say the velocity which it acquires is v. So kinetic energy will be half mv squared. So the total mechanical energy here it will be mgh plus half mv squared. So it is given that kinetic energy is 3 times the potential energy. So if we make use of that expression, half mv squared is 3 times of mgh. M gets cancelled, and then we get the value also. What is the value we are getting? V square is equal to 3 to the 6 gh. So let us say this is one of the equation. Another equation we can find it out from the top part. Now V square, make use of the equation. V square is equal to U square plus 2as. So for this top part we can write v square is equal to 0 square plus 2 into g into what is this distance, s minus h. So this is second equation. Now if you equate first and second equation, you can write 6gh is equal to 2g s minus h. G and g gets cancelled, 2 3 ja. So what is s? It is equal to 4h. S is equal to 4h. So what they have asked us to find out, the height at which this happens. What happens? Kinetic energy is 3 times the potential energy. So what is the value of h from this equation? It is s by 4. Any other thing which they have asked? Speed. What is speed? V. So you can make use of this. V square is equal to 6gh. So we can determine it from here. What is the speed? So we can write v square is equal to 6g into h. H is s by 4. So 2 2 are 4, 2 3 are 6. So what is v? It is root of 3gs by 2. So we have got both the answers. First one is the height is s by 4 and second one is velocity or speed at that instant of time. We got it as root of 3gs by 2. So you can see it was a very basic question from motion under gravity. Let's see this next question, question number 9. This is based on AC circuits. So there is a coil of inductive reactance 31 ohm. So here XL value has been given in the question. This is 31 ohm. Has a resistance of 8 ohm. R value is also given. It is placed in series with a condenser of capacitive reactance 25 ohm. So XC value is also given as 25 ohm here. The combination is connected to an AC source of 110 volt. So it is like LCR circuit, and they are asking us to find out the power factor of this circuit. So now in this LCR circuit, if we draw the phasor diagram, what will be the phasor diagram? How will it look like? So we will have R, then you will have your XC and XL. So there is some XC, there is some XL. Which is greater here, XL or XC? XL is greater. So resultant diagram will become like this. This is R, and here we can have XL minus XC. How much will be that? XL value 31 ohm, and this is 25. So 31 minus 25 is 6. So this becomes 6 ohm, and R value it is given as 8 ohm. So you can write it as 8 ohm. So what will be the impedance? Impedance will be the resultant of these two, Z. So we'll find Z will be equal to root of magnitude of this vector, root of R square plus XL minus XC square. So root of 8 square plus 6 square. How much will we get? Root of 64 plus 36. So that is root of 100. Root of 100 is 10. So Z we get it as 10. Now what is phi? Phi is this value. If you drop a perpendicular, this angle is your phi. So what is power factor? Power factor is cos of this phi. Sorry, cos of this phi. What will be cos of phi here? Can you find it out? Cos of phi will be given as base, which is resistance R, by impedance, which is Z. So R by Z. What is R and what is Z? R is 8 and Z is 10. So we can write it as 8 by 10, which is 4 by 5. So that will be the power factor. 4 by 5 is 0.8. So the answer for this question will be 0.8. I have seen many times that most of the students, whenever they see questions from alternating current or based on AC circuits, they generally tend to escape those questions thinking that it is very difficult and it cannot be done. But don't do like that. Most of the questions you will find in your mains exam from AC circuit, it will be quite doable, and it will be based on direct formulas, and if you understand phasor diagram, you can solve most of the questions that has been asked from you in mains exam. Okay, so let's see this 10th question. In this question, you can see there is a block which is moving on this frictionless hemispherical bowl. They are asking us to predict the graph of the ratio of magnitude of centripetal force and normal acceleration or normal reaction at any point B with theta. So let us try to find out the value of x first. How will we get it? For x, we need to get centripetal force, we need to get normal reaction. So we draw the free body diagram of this. So you can see here mg will act, then this mg can be broken down into two components. If this is theta, then this is 90 minus theta. So this will be 90 minus theta, this will be theta. So we can write this as mg cos theta. Be careful, this component is mg cos theta, not this component. So this component will become mg sin theta. Normal reaction, let us say the speed is v. When the body reaches here, let us say the speed is p. So can I write n minus mg sin theta is equal to mv square by r? That is the net centripetal force. N minus mg sin theta is equal to mv square by r. So what is n on normal reaction? Centripetal force is mv square by r. Normal reaction becomes equal to mg sin theta plus mv square by r. So this is one equation. Now if you use energy conservation from this position, let us say initially this block was here. So when it has come down through an angle of theta, this is r. So what is the distance it has come down? This distance is r sin theta. So if here I assume the potential energy to be 0, kinetic energy will be half mv square, correct? What about this position? At this position I can assume some potential energy which will be mgr sin theta, kinetic energy is 0. So now if we conserve mechanical energy between A and B, we can write mg r sin theta plus 0 is equal to 0 plus half mv square. So what is mv square by r? It is 2 mg sin theta. So from this equation we can write mv square by r. R is coming in the denominator, 2 will come here. So this is 2 mg sin theta. So this is my second equation. So now what is normal reaction from first and second equation? It will be mg sin theta plus 2 mg sin theta, which is equal to 3 mg sin theta. So we'll write it here. My n is coming as 3 mg sin theta. Also my centripetal force, which is mv square by r, is 2 mg sin theta. So the ratio is x. Centripetal force, which is 2 mg sin theta, divided by normal reaction, which is 3 mg sin theta. So mg sin theta gets cancelled, and what do you get? X as 2 by 3. So you can see this is a constant. it does not change with theta. So if you see the graph x versus theta, which is the correct graph? Obviously first one, because here x is constant with theta. So here we used two concepts. One was, if a body is moving in a circular path, there must be some centripetal force. Second, we made use of energy conservation.